Hi friends, so in the last video we discussed how to create a basic Spring Boot project. So how to create a basic Spring Boot project? So we used a Spring Initializer. So and there we selected the required dependencies. So the minimum required dependency to create a Spring Boot project is Spring Boot Starter Web. So here we have specified all the required things, and here according to your requirement, according to your project requirement, you need to select the different dependencies. So Spring Boot Web is one which is the minimum requirement. So if you want to get into database connectivity, yes. So MySQL database I want to use. So go to here, so type it here. Yes. See MySQL. So you can add. If you want to use JPA, so like that, you need to add the different dependencies. So this is a way to add more than one dependency. So we'll look into that also later. But we need to look into this Spring Boot Web. Built-in web services includes RESTful web services and uses embedded Tomcat server, contains embedded Tomcat server. So and which is uses Spring MVC also. So if you look into this, so what is RESTful web services? So, so this is the one. RESTful web services. So your Spring Boot, any nowadays all the technologies, so Spring also internally uses RESTful web services implementation only. So why web services are famous nowadays? So from past few years. So previously we are having SOAP based web services. SOAP based web services, right? So how the communication is going to happen when you are talking about SOAP? So here, when it comes to web services, so you are here, you will have it. One is consumer, so one is producer will be there, so will be there, and another one is a consumer will be there. Sorry. So when you are talking about web service, so the web services, so here you will have a consumer. So this might be a producer as well. And here consumer. Consumer will be there. So producer means who provides the services. So he will provide the services. So can the producer. So producer is running at some location and the consumer is running at some location. So how producer and consumer will talk to each other. So why web services are so famous compared to ordinary applications? See, why? Because the producer may be running at some language. So producer is working in Java and consumer is running at mainframes application. How these two applications will interact with each other? Because Java doesn't understand what mainframes is talking. Mainframes does not understand what Java is speaking. So then the communication is going to happen over XML. So XML is extendable markup language, which is a platform independent language which is used to communicate between heterogeneous languages. See, here I am using Java and here I am using mainframes or any legacy application. So how these two will interact with each other? Because what consumer is saying, producer doesn't understand. What producer is saying, consumer doesn't understand. So for that communication purpose, we are using XML. And how each will communicate by using WSDL. WSDL. WSDL and the protocol is SOAP, and the communication happens through XML. So this is the way these two services will interact. Producer will produce something, so consumer will consume that service. So how producer and consumer will talk to each other? So for that, so that data exchange will happen over XML, and the protocol is SOAP, and WSDL is used to communicate between, means through WSDL the consumer knows what are the services are provided by your producer and where your producer is there by using endpoint. Endpoint is one option. So by using endpoint, so the consumer will get the address of your producer and what are the services your producer is providing. So what are the services means methods. So this is the way your SOAP based web services are working. But to understand your SOAP based web services, to understand the WSDL is not that much easy. And here if required, you need to generate some files. So everything is abstraction, and the data exchange happens over XML. And parsing means partialing up so marshalling and unmarshalling of your XML is not that much easy. Even though XML is faster, but XML tags itself occupies more memory than the data. And your SOAP-based web services supports only XML communication. And understanding the WSDL is not that much easy. So these are the basic disadvantages of your SOAP-based web services. So to overcome that problem, so then they came up with RESTful web services. So there is a reason RESTful web services are came into picture. So RESTful web services, here also same story. So here your RESTful web services will use your basic HTTP methods. So what are the basic HTTP methods? Post, get, put, next, delete. So what are the basic operations you are going to perform on database? So right, CRUD operations, right? CRUD operations, CRUD. So what are the basic operations you are going to perform on the database? So assume this is DB. So DB will look like this. Assume this is DB. So what are the basic operations you are going to perform on the DB? So each DB will have some tables. So you can insert some record into database, create and read and update. So read and update and delete. Assume this is employee table, EMP table. So what are the basic operations you are going to perform on this database table? So you can create a record, you can read a record, you can update a record, and you can delete a record. So now create. So post, read, get, and update, put, or delete. So these are the basic four methods. So it provides another methods also. So these are the four basic HTTP methods we are going to use in RESTful web services. And the communication happens in different ways. When it comes to your SOAP-based web services, the communication happens over SOAP over XML. SOAP over XML only. But when it comes to your RESTful web services, the communication will happen like XML. Sorry. Communication will happen like communication can happen over XML, JSON, plain text, text, and HTML. So like that, your RESTful web services supports different types of communication. So you can have a communication like XML, JSON, text, or HTML. But when it comes to your SOAP-based web services, so the communication happens over only XML. SOAP over XML. But here, when it comes to here, the communication will happen like this. Different ways are there. So how which protocol it will uses? HTTP protocol. And what are the basic methods we are going to use? Post, get, put, delete. So because we are going to perform only 4 operations on the database, right? You can insert a record into your database. You can update a record in the database. You can get a record from the database. You can delete. So for those operations, CRUD operations, here we are having this. So let me explain to diagrammatically. So these are the 4 methods. So you are here, you are having trace, different methods also there. So, but these are the 4 basic methods. So when it comes to your RESTful web service, so same story here, producer and here consumer. Okay, producer. So, producer. Producer. And here consumer. So now producer is running at some location and consumer is running at some other location. So how the consumer knows where the producer is, physical address of your producer. So when it comes to SOAPful web services, we are using BizDev. But when it comes to RESTful web service, you will use URI. Not URL, URI, Universal Resource Indicator. So which will use the address of your producer. So the communication happens through URI. And the protocol is HTTP protocol. And what are the basic methods we are going to use? Post, put, get, delete. These are the methods we are going to use. So, and your web services, RESTful web services are very easy to understand. And the data exchange will happen in different ways. XML or JSON or plain text or HTML. So maximum nowadays everyone will use JSON. So what are the advantage of JSON? So JSON is also like a XML, but XML uses tags to represent the data, but JSON is a plain text. It's a faster compared to your XML, and passing of data from JSON is very easy compared to XML. So that is the advantage of using RESTful web services. RESTful web services are very easy to understand. And how you will identify a service in your RESTful web service? By using URI. And RESTful web services uses your basic HTTP4 methods to perform operations on the database. Post. So let me go to here. So now, here I am having my service, and here I am having my database. Now, I want to insert some records into my database. So which method I need to use? So here I am having some UI page. So now I want to submit some data from my UI to my database. So which method I need to use? Because I am posting the data. So post. Now I want to So one record is inserted into student or EMP table. EMP table. So by posting. So now I want to get the details. Here one more page is there. Here I want to display the details of employee 101. So now I want to get the records from my database to here and I want to display. So then go for get method. Now already 101 record is there. I want to update the address of that particular employee ID 101. Then use the put. So update the record. Now I want to delete the record of 101 student member. So one more screen is there here. Delete. Now use the delete. So these are the four methods. But when you're getting get, so you can get list of records. So I want to get all the employees whose salary is less than 10,000. So then you will get list of records. I want to get an employee whose employee ID is 101. Then you will get a one record. So here get is having two options. So you can get a list of records or single record. So depending on the input parameters you passed. So this is about your RESTful web services. So if you want to insert something into insert something into your database, so use post. And I want to get some data from the database and I want to display, use get. And if I want to update the existing record, so you can use put or patch. I want to delete a particular record, use delete. So delete. So this is about our basic idea about RESTful web services. So because your Spring Boot application internally uses RESTful web services implementation only. So now, so because what are the operations you are going to perform on the database? That operations only we are going to perform on the database. Create, read, update, delete. So for these four operations, there are four HTTP methods. So these methods where you need to use in your RESTful web services. So those things we'll discuss later, means in next sessions. So this is a basic introduction about RESTful web services. Thank you.